Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 17th, 2021 at approximately 10:36 a.m. PST. Okay, now, we've covered a number of things thus far over this little particular series that we're looking at. You've already got a thought laid out, whether it's an old project or business you're striving to get started, or a new project you're just getting into. You've got an idea. We've already covered the issue of it getting into your heart to become a drive. Once it got into your heart, you had a choice to make. Now, from the thought to the heart, you don't really have a lot of choice on it. It kind of just works out that way. But once you make that choice, the question becomes, how do you take that choice, that thought, and take it from thought to reality, to a physical manifestation? So, how do you get that successful transition? So we covered the concept of a purpose, of a plan to attain it, of the persistence necessary to get to that to finish that project, and of the patience required to accept the fact that it did not take you a moment to get to where you are, and to shift things around is going to take some time. A tree doesn't grow overnight. A multinational business, does not grow overnight. A world-renowned literary project or artistic endeavor, as in singing, dancing, whatever, does not just happen overnight for most people. There are the occasional differences. Okay. But today we're talking about creativity. How do we take that whole thing and how does it work to get it to where you're aiming for? Now, the reality behind creation is, if you take a look at it, it does take work. It takes effort, and you're the only one in existence that can be successful for you. You're the one that has to take this thought, stay focused on what it is, this concept. Stay focused on what you desire. Do your best not to let other people talk you out of it. Okay, now this is, of course, assuming that you follow karmic law. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. You follow those three concepts and you stay focused on it. Then the big thing that can happen is you can take whatever it is you've got as a concept and you can draw it into the material world and thereby physically manifest it. Now, the biggest message I came back here that I returned to pass on to every entity in existence is the simple fact that we can make this a better world for almost everybody if we work together. If we choose to work together, we can make it work. Now, prime examples of this, okay, and I never understood part of this, but in World War I, and check your own facts, okay, I'm saying what I recall, okay, but check your own facts. Don't just take my word for it. But in World War I, there was a terrible thing going on called war, but on Christmas Day, and people say Christmas spirit doesn't exist. I would love somebody to explain to me how this one occurred, though. On Christmas Day in World War I don't remember exactly which year. Okay. But the front lines, there was no ceasefire called. But on the front lines, the Axis and the Allies, the Germans and their allies, and everybody else, okay, they were faced off at the front line. And for whatever reason, with no ceasefire called, everybody chose to put their guns down. They chose to cross no man's land, and they chose to sit down and have dinner together and exchange gifts. Now, that is absolutely fantastic. Now, if somebody can come up with an explanation as to why that happened with no orders from anybody and no communication, when you think about it, here you have, let's just stick to German and English as far as languages go. Okay, and there were a lot more languages, but let's stick to those two. People chose not to continue fighting for that day. Now, granted, the gifts they exchanged were, from what I gather, were, military rations. They were ammo. They were, helmets, this sort of thing. Just whatever they had available. What never made sense to me was why, on December 26th, they had already stopped the war. For whatever reason, they all of a sudden stopped it. They chose to quit. And they got together in a creative, humanitarian capacity, and they sat down and they had Christmas dinner together. Right smack in the middle of the first real massive war in a very long time. Okay. Now, to me, that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, but that's what they did. So, okay. Now, the creative process is this. Somebody comes up with an idea. You come up with an idea. And you put that idea in motion. Somebody else picks up on that concept. Okay. And now you've got two people working on the same concept. Okay, well, it adds up pretty quick. If one person tells one, if everybody tells one person, the jump you end up with is this. You go from 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. You get the picture. Okay, and it keeps getting bigger. That is if everybody works together. Now, the reality of it is, and I get a kick out of this. Okay, when it comes to you producing something of a global capacity, there's only one functional difference between you and anybody else in the industry, even the major moguls. Okay, people talk about the elites. Well, what the elites had going for them, first of all, was time. They had less competition in certain fields, so they got out in front, and they had a better marketing plan, a better publicity setup. Okay, whether they used good methods or bad ones, that's up to other people to decide. But the reality is, if you're looking at competing in the capacity of a major grocery chain, understand that major grocery chain started off as a single store. It didn't start off with multiple outlets. And there are ways of expanding your business. If you're on the verge of expanding your business, if you've got a business right now and you're debating whether or not to expand into a new location, here's a guideline for you. Take a look at your net income. If your net income is enough that with that net income, because net income, if you run a business, you already know what that means. But that's your money after expenses. If your net income is enough to support a secondary outlet without an income coming into that outlet, okay, you're at a point financially where it's safe to expand. If it's not, you're already setting yourself up for stress. Okay, so that's the first rule. And so many people go, well, expand into another outlet because you got the opportunity. The opportunity is useless, essentially, if you cannot afford to run it without adding an extreme amount of stress. The other thing to keep in mind, if you've already got a business up and running, pick 2 days of the week, even if you've been running for years, running 7 days a week, effective now. Pick 2 days of the week, pick the slower 2 days, but pick them back to back. So you get 2 days where you just close the doors, nobody's in there, not your staff, not anybody. Okay, because the reality is you don't have to be open 24/7 for the customer. If you're open, the customer will come when you open. If you've got what they desire. Good service, good prices, good quality stuff. People will come to you. Okay. Now remember, good service does mean that you've got to treat people decently. Now remember, this is an issue of the creative process. If you go to a restaurant, for instance, or any business, now this is a statistic I haven't checked myself, okay? But the theory is, if you go to a business and you get good service, the average seems to be you'll tell 2 people. If you get bad service or whatever, you will tell 10 people. Now, this being said, number one, in my opinion, bar none, method of advertising is word of mouth. Okay. If you treat people honestly, they may not like what you say, but they will respect the fact you're honest. Like I went to a store the other day and I was looking for something specific. They didn't have it, but the guy goes, "I don't have it, but here's a store that carries it." Okay. What that did for me, yes, it meant I didn't buy the stuff from him, but it does mean that if that store has what I'm looking for when I go looking for something again, that's the first place I'm going to go because they showed me where the thing was I desired, even though they didn't have it. Okay. Now, the creative process is very simple. You take a look at the way the energy in your life is running. Everything that is holding you back, whether it's a thought process or physical stuff that's in the way, whether you're hanging on to stuff that is not really helping you, that's the stuff that you've got to alter. You modify the way the energy is working, and you'll change the direction the energy goes. By doing that, you will find that you will create the physical thing you're aiming for. Now, it does take time. Now, when we talk about artwork, people say, "Oh, you're not good." Well, I've seen paintings that it looks like somebody carried a bucket of paint and tripped while they walked towards a canvas. They put a frame around it and go, "There's a painting," and they put a price on it, and people buy it. And they chalk it up and go, "That's modern art." And I'm looking at it going, "That looks like an accident." But that's my personal opinion. Okay. I am much more focused on the concept of what I like. I'm not an art critic. Okay. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. It's kind of like food. I'm a lousy person to say that's good food or that's bad food, except that's good food to me or that's bad food to me. When you're looking at creating that which you desire to create, be it a project, be it a business, keep focused on what you're aiming for. The more clear that you have that picture, and this is where writing that picture down in physical terms, like putting it on paper in today's world, putting it on the computer, get the concept down. You can always enhance it. Okay, but get it into physical form so that if you choose to show it to somebody else, you can turn around and go, "Here's what I'm working on." But understand, the writing it down is not for them. It's to keep it straight in your head and to build on what you're aiming for. Now, that may change as time goes on. Lord knows I've rearranged my office more times than I care to count. But the reality is I've always changed it for me, not for anybody else. So, keep in mind what you're aiming for. Now, here's the thing. Okay, people tell you there's all sorts of things you cannot do. You cannot create. As you get older, your eyesight's going to collapse. Well, my glasses, I've showed this to you before. Okay, I used to hold my glasses that close to my face, literally with my arm cocked that tight to my face. I could not physically see my glasses. Right now, I can actually read the numbers at the bottom of the timer here, so I can keep an eye on how long the video's got. I'm having a good day, but my eyes are getting better, and that is the real key to creativity. You look at it, and it's not called delusion. Okay, it's a question of noting the small changes. I mentioned before, if you minimize the negative things and you maximize the positive ones, what you'll end up with is a much more enjoyable life. Okay, by taking the negative things in your life and modifying them, sometimes this means getting rid of them. Okay, sometimes it means bringing a friendship or bringing a relationship that isn't working, bringing it to a close. But if you're bringing something like a friendship or a relationship to a close, be clear with the individual that you're bringing it to a close with as to why you're bringing it to a close. They don't have to like the answer. Okay, but what you do is you create the situation, you follow the karmic law, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. and you create a situation where they know why the relationship ended, they're not left in the dark, much as you likely will not appreciate being left in the dark if somebody walks out of your life and doesn't tell you why. Okay, been there, done that, was not fun. Okay, but understand, it's up to you what you do. Okay, you have to be responsible. You've got to take ownership of whatever it is you do, whatever it is you say, because you cannot undo, unsay, unfeel, unsee things. Once you've seen them, once you've heard them, you cannot unhear them. You can't go, I didn't hear it. Well, you can go that way. It just doesn't work well. The creative process boils down to taking the thought, getting the imperative drive, taking a logical approach and putting it down on paper. Okay, because the more focused you are, and the paper helps, whether it's paper or whether it's a computer. In today's world, it's the same thing. The reason I like paper is because if I have a power failure, I don't run out of my paperwork doesn't delete itself. If I have a power surge, the writing on the paper doesn't go away. Okay, it just simply sits there and I just have to carry on. Now, do I transfer a lot of it on a computer? Absolutely. But an awful pile is on paper. My entire filing system, okay, my address book is right here. Yes, I'm a dinosaur. Not literally, but at least I don't think literally. In any event, whatever creative method works for you, that's the one you work with. Okay, people will tell you it's easier doing it this way. I'll tell you, computers may be easier to work with for a lot of people. For me, they're more frustrating than anything else. But you take a look at what you're building and you go, here's the concept I've got. This is what I'm aiming for. Not this is what I'm aiming for to make everybody else happy. You're better off, quite seriously, in my opinion, if you look at creating something that you're content with. That will keep you focused on it. If you're trying to make somebody else happy, the odds are you're going to run into snags. Especially if making them happy is going to make you feel used, taken advantage of, neglected. If you feel like you're not getting a reasonable return on your efforts, you're going to run into problems in all probability. It may not happen right away. You may have been conditioned to go, I have to make everybody else happy before I'm allowed to be happy myself. Well, the sad reality is this. If you're not content yourself, you're going to have a hard time making other people happy. Okay. It is not for you to make other people happy. All you can do, the only person you got any control over, is you. You can absolutely do something that will make people temporarily feel happy, but somebody that's truly unhappy with their life, giving them something doesn't usually help. I've seen way too many times when people have gone, oh, I really wish I could win the lottery. Now, I knew one couple in particular. They used to live next door to me decades back. Really happy family. Really, really content. I mean, there was love all over the place. It was just fabulous to watch. They won $10 million. Their marriage was over inside 6 months. Now, it wasn't the money's fault. Money was not the root of the problem. They were not content to start with, and the money simply brought that to light. It's much like if you have a relationship. Okay, if you're in a relationship and you're having troubles, having a child will not make that better. Having a child simply amplifies that which is already there. If you're broke, money will not make you happy. Money will simply amplify that which is already there. Okay, now I made the mistake. I used to be extremely broken, always right down to the wire. Okay, and I'm still not wealthy. Okay, still working on that. Okay, so when we're looking at this whole reality thing, you've got to take a look at what your goals are, not what everybody else's are, not are you doing something that's making somebody else happy. Are you doing something that's making you happy? Are you working in a job that you're content with? Now, if you're not content with your job, do not make the mistake of quitting the job before you have a replacement income. Because, like it or not, you still kind of require an income in order to keep a roof over your head. I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea of living on the street. And there are people that enjoy it. I knew one guy in particular that just thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay, to the point with a near six-figure balance, with a high six-figure balance in his account, in his bank account. He chose to live on the street because that's where he liked to live. I heard tale of another gentleman that lived underground in his own property. All the money in the world. He owned a staggering amount of money in a major city. Okay, on riverfront property. He owned a lot of it. And he chose to live underground. As in, he dug a hole in the underground, in the property, and lived underneath it. But that was because that's what he desired to do. That's what he felt comfortable with. Now, I'm not the one to tell you what's going to make you feel most comfortable, but I will tell you it's your comfort that you have to look at. And it's that thing you're striving to create that by breaking it down into small goals, 15-minute to half-hour goals, you can accomplish just about anything. It will take time. It will take effort. Okay. And you're the only being in existence that has the capacity to be successful for you. You are also the only person that can give your word to anybody. Now, nobody can take your word. Okay. They can absolutely take the value of your word. If you say, I'm going to do this, and you go and do it, okay, people will learn to trust that when you say you're going to do something, you're going to go and do it. But your word is the only thing that you can create that nobody can take away from you by force. They can coerce you into giving it. They can absolutely threaten you, which, by the way, is a stronger force of coercion. But they cannot take it from you. Just like they cannot be successful for you. Only you have the capacity of being successful for you. And the only time you can do that is right here, right now. You can postpone it. But let's say you postpone it until tomorrow. When you do it, you will be right here, right now. You will not be on tomorrow. There was an old saying when I was growing up that went, today is the tomorrow we talked about yesterday, and today is the yesterday we will talk about tomorrow. Okay, making today, tomorrow, and yesterday all the same time. This is why I say the only time in existence you can accomplish anything is right here, right now. So here's a challenge for you. You've got an idea already in your mind. Okay, you've got a concept of something you'd like to accomplish. Be it get a promotion, be it change jobs, start writing a novel, begin world travel. There could be, the variety is incredible. Now here's the one of that goal you had. You've got a partner. You're really happy with them. You're both definitively in love with each other. And you're held up by one thing. Okay, we got to put a ring on our finger. Now, the funny part about it is this. The ring is symbolic. Okay, it's not a requirement, but it is absolutely something that everybody uses as a symbol. But here's the thing to keep in mind. This is going to drive some of you right up the wall. Especially if you're financially strapped. Okay, there are three types of rings. Okay, there's in that venue. There's a promise ring, there's an engagement ring, and a wedding ring. Now, in my opinion, the only functional difference between a promise ring and an engagement ring is the price of the ring. And the question you have to ask is, do I desire to marry the person? Or do I desire to put this incredible ring on their finger? If you're holding yourself back because of the cost of the ring, and this goes to whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter to me. Look at what they call promise rings. Yes, they're cheaper. They're absolutely less expensive than so-called engagement rings. But a promise ring boils down to, I promise to get engaged to you later, to marry you down the road. An engagement ring boils down to, I promise to marry you down the road. Okay, the wedding ring simply is a ring that says we're married. So here's the thing. Okay, if the promise ring and the engagement ring say the same thing and you desire to create a married union, okay, ask yourself which is most important. Point in fact, when I got married with my first marriage, okay, I did it on a $40 promise ring. The marriage lasted us 16 years. Okay, now that said, that was on 40. Okay, I've seen people spend $10,000 on a wedding ring, on an engagement ring, and the marriage hasn't lasted 2 years. So, which was more valuable? Okay, was that $40 ring more useful at the time? I could have gotten a engagement ring for like 400. Okay, I don't know what the prices are now. I'm not looking at getting married just yet. Okay, in time I will. And yeah, assuming I'm still doing this, which is highly probable, I will let you know when that happens. But the reality is, if you're financially strapped and you're striving to create a legal union between two people, whether you're male and female, male and male, female and female, I don't care. Okay, love is love. That's just the way it is. But look at what you're aiming for and create that which you have the capacity to create. But stay focused on what's going to make you happy. Okay, not what everybody else says is required. In certain circles in society, either on the positive or the negative, and this is the funny part about it, both sides of the board are the same. Okay, the people that have low income, they band together and form one community. And the people that have a lot of income band together and form another community. And the people that have a mid-range income form together to make a third one. But they all operate the same way. And if you're not creating an equal system where the laws that you're laying out are applying to everybody, the society will fracture. Okay. And you don't have to take my word for it. Take a look around you. You can read history, but the neat part about history is people keep changing the books. Okay. But take a look at the society around you and the way you see it. And see if that actually makes sense. Okay. The creative side of life is come up with a concept. It becomes an emotional imperative. From there, it becomes a thought process. How am I going to go about making that emotional imperative? How am I going to make that into a physical reality? Now, I knew one client that used to, every time she came up with a big ticket item she desired to buy, she would sit down and she would literally whittle things. She would carve the object. And by the time she got finished carving it, no matter whether it was a new car or a new property, by the time she got finished carving that item, she would own the property or the item. Now, to me, that was going a little overboard. Okay. If you're aiming at buying a new house and you're striving to figure out how to get it, well, the first thing you do, grab a sheet of paper, draw a rectangle on it, write my house. Okay. And you write across the top, I own my house. Okay. Do not put an address on the property, but you can describe the property to the best of your ability, but do not put a property address on it. Okay, it will help draw that energy in, so you can actually find a new place. Okay, if you're in the process of striving to move, and you've got to sell your property, well, here's a secret that few people actually seem to know. You decide you're putting your property up on sale. Immediately upon putting your property up for sale, start packing everything you don't physically require to run that house. Okay, because by packing it up, you draw the energy into a box and create the opportunity for that energy to go out and find a new home. It will make selling your house a whole lot easier. Now, that being said, I keep these to a half-hour line. So, I'm going to bring this to a close, and I will be back again tomorrow. But to make sure that you get it, subscribe to the channel and remember to hit the alert button to let you know when I post the next one. I will then be back again tomorrow. And tomorrow, what are we doing? I lost my list. It's right in front of me. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about foundation. So, until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.